Good evening and welcome to our PPG IndyCar World Series 1987 edition, coming to you tonight from Exhibition Place in Toronto. A race that's promising to be absolutely fantastic, to say the least. Have had a very beautiful day here in Sweden, and by the sounds of things, Ryan Walker, you've had the same over in Scotland.
Yeah, surprisingly, it's been sunny in Scotland most of this weekend, and this is a surprise because considering that Scotland's famous for having rain most of the time. So, yeah, it's been a good and a nice weekend overall, and yeah, I'm looking forward to watching this race in international or the ISO, pretty much ISO kart series around a fantastic track such as uh, Indy Molson.
Yeah, it's one of those tracks, isn't it, where the fortune favors the brave. Um, in the way that there's a lot of very quick 90-degree corners, and those that are really brave can really get close to the walls and gain a lot of speed, and those who are not as brave will be rather slow.
Yeah, it's one of those tracks that seems to reward the. It's kind of it's pretty much a street circuit, and it as you know, street circuits always seem to reward bravery and commitment. And I think you'll see a few drivers probably trying to be brave around here tonight. But this track, Toronto, is a great track for IndyCar. It's hosted a whole range of great races in the past in real life, and but also on the other hand, if you push too much, it can bite.
Definitely so. So the track we are talking about is Exhibition Place, down in downtown Toronto, I believe. It's a 1.78 mile temporary road course or street course. And our drivers will be going around this place 103 times, at least those that manage to stay on the lead lap, which I think will be quite tricky tonight. And that will equal just over 183 miles in total distance. And I believe this was this the final location venue where um, I think 90s and early 2000s Hernandez uh, won his first IndyCar race, I believe it was, or
Yeah, I
IndyCar
believe
slash
it.
kart race.
Yeah, I believe it was a back in the days when the IndyCar ran under or was pretty much named kart at the time. I think yeah, I believe Adrian Fernandez won his first race around here back in I can't remember. I think it was the late 90s or in the year 2000, but I would need to go back and double check what year he won. But yeah, for sure he won his first race around here.
And that will, in my head, be interesting because we have many drivers who have yet to win here at ISO, and maybe we'll see one of those being able to win here tonight. Um, let's see. Speaking of, well, not really speaking of, but let's bring up the points standings as they stand at the moment after 7 rounds. Richard Coxon still leading the championship on 110 points. He is currently 22 points ahead of Vadim Tachak, who is second on 88 points. David Yates is third on 68 points, so a further 20-point adrift. Thiago Canola, who is, as far as I'm aware, no longer racing in the series due to family commitments, is a further 5 points adrift in fourth on 63 points. And Anders Nilsson, who so cruelly had a very secure win taken away from him last time out at Burke Lakefront Airport, is sitting in fifth place on 52 points. Anders, I want to remember, was still happy with his driving at least, but obviously it would have been nice if the engine lasted for another 100 to 200 yards, because that obviously cost him dearly, that little incident with the engine blowing. Let's have a quick look what that was about. Alright, yeah, okay. So thank you, Ryan. So yeah, Fernandez won at Toronto in 1996, which was the same year and event where we sadly lost. Complete brain fade on the name. I had it for a moment.
It was I know the race or the driver you're talking about. That was Canada's very own Jeff Krosnov.
Thank you, indeed. The second generation Krosnov racing in IndyCar and or kart. So that was, if I remember correctly, one where Fernandez said, "I wanted to win, but not in this kind of situation." Such as
It's
it
one of those
became to
races
be.
that I remember watching that accident on YouTube, and it's never one that you want to watch back. And as much as I was happy to see Fernandez win, it's not the circumstances that he wanted to win under.
Indeed.
Well,
Go on.
just going to say it looks like qualifying's just got underway as well.
I believe it's warm-up, actually.
Warm up, sorry, my bad.
If I didn't misread what I saw when I logged in, but I could be wrong on the server. Very quickly, for the fuel and tires for this event. Each driver has 4 sets of tires for the entire event, that being qualifying, warm-up and a race. And each car is limited to 108 US gallons, which is, give or take, probably like a deciliter or so, 409 liters for this race. Which, unless we get some yellow, we'll probably see a few drivers having to work the fuel saving a little bit. And we've seen races in both past and present where very well handled fuel saving can get you quite a long bit into a good finish position.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been a few times in the real life racing IndyCar at this track where drivers have tried to go as long as possible just to try and go as long as possible and try and gain track position and maybe try and make it on one less stop. I can't remember who it was that done it in real life, but actually, I think it was Paul Chase that done it at one point. I think I can't remember what year it was, but I'm sure he basically done a long run and basically done it on one less stop.
When it was still with the Team Green guys, I believe.
Yeah, indeed it was. I can't remember what year it was, but I definitely remember him during his Team Green days, and he won around here with Team Penske as well back in 1993.
Oh, when they first started out with the was it the Mercedes power plant they ventured into that year, I believe?
1993, I think it was. I believe it was Chevy, but I could be wrong on that. But 1994.
Yeah, it could have been the last year with Chevrolet too, right?
1994 was the year that they started using Mercedes engines, but that wasn't until the Indianapolis 500, I believe, when they kept it a secret.
Indeed.
And pretty much found a loophole in the rules to use up that Mercedes engine, or as they call it, I think in the US, I believe it's called the Elmore.
Indeed. That it was called for sure. And we can
But
see.
yeah, there's quite a story about that Mercedes engines, but I think it's I'll probably go on for a long time there. The story,
We'll save that if there's a lull in this race, shall we?
yeah.
So you can see now on screen probably the trickiest corner on this track, which is 4-5 turn 6-7, which is a very, very long sweeping right-hander, very tight. It's one of those places where you want to go on the throttle, and you just have to wait and wait and wait, and then you can actually put it on, because if you go too early, you're either outsliding a lot with the rear end, or you're pushing and understeering into the barrier on the outside. Both situations generally lead to the barrier. It's just a question of, is it the rear or the front that hit first?
Absolutely, and thinking about it, there's not really many passing opportunities. But apart from that, the long run down to, I believe it's turn 3. What's his Lakeshore Boulevard, I believe. But there's not many
Indeed,
passing opportunities. There's only a couple of passing opportunities. From what I remember, is turn 1 and turn 3. I think around this track, it's all about if the driver in front of you makes a mistake.
Indeed, and turn 1 it sort of feels like Trois Rivières also in Canada, another street circuit. Both turn 1 and turn 2 sort of feel the same at that location as it does into turn 1 here. Where sure, you can dive up the inside, but there's so much room around outside that either you are given enough room and they are just sweeping around outside of you, or they go for the apex and there's no room left for you and you hit the inside barrier, or if you can't back out in time.
Absolutely, and I think I'm not sure who I would predict I think will win this race, or who my prediction will be, but I think with this race being 103 laps, and especially around the street circuit such as Toronto, I think that these drivers are going to have to think about is fatigue at them, or mental fatigue, because 103 laps around here on a street circuit and trying to keep your concentration up for the whole race is going to be difficult.
Definitely so. Let's see, Lavach soon to be there, so let's jump on board with the Bettenhausen team car and have a ride along this track. Coming through the final sweeping left-hander across the start-finish line, pit exit on the right, and then a very wide open 90-degree right-hander, which then opens up and then tightens again into turn 2, where you sweep onto Lakeshore Boulevard. Princess Boulevard is the opening start-finish straight. Down into a very tricky braking zone, very bumpy here. Trying to get the car slowed down for turn 3, this very tight uphill hairpin, as we can see Peter going off and leaving room. Looks like he may even be okay. Let's see if we have anyone. Right, so Anders just coming up here, so into this very tight hairpin at turn 3. Very easy to get the car sideways into this left-hander over a crest. And now this left-hander onto Ontario Drive, and then this very tricky right-hander at turn 6. You can see you can hear how careful he is on that. That was actually Princess Boulevard, and then down here at Manitoba, I think that's Manitoba Drive, and then this is Nova Scotia Avenue. Into a very sweeping right-hander, pit entry on the right, and then this again sweeping left-hander onto the effectively start-finish straight.
Yeah, pretty much. And then you've got this the exit of turn 1 is an exit you need to get right, or because of this long run down here, you want to try and carry as much momentum as much speed as possible. Try and get a run on someone heading down to turn 3, which is where Anders is heading down to now. And yeah, you can make a move here, but you've got to be really close and get up the inside before the entry of turn 3, because this section here is a really tight section.
Indeed, very similar to so like the middle part of the Detroit street circuit that we saw in F1 last year. Ooh, someone has had a big off there at what I think is turn 8 or 9. And we have back racing with us Matheus da Silva. Been away for a while, but looks like he is set and ready for this. What I think is a one-off drive for Alex Morales Motorsports. Currently sitting in 7th, which is very nicely done by him. Oh, Jonatan looks like he has a puncture. Just trying to see if we have any other sort of new. We have Mark Wittmann, who I believe is German or from Germany, standing in this race in the Newman team. I can never remember if it's Haas or Newman Teamworks, but it's one of the two in the Pepsi-sponsored 51 machine.
Yeah, that is. I believe that's the Newman Teamworks car. I'm the same. I always get mixed up with the Newman Haas Racing and Newman Teamworks. The team names. It always plays with my mind.
Ooh, and it looks like Mark has some setup work to do. That is looking very loose indeed for him. That is very fun for short runs, but I would not like to have that for the full race, I don't think.
Yeah, I'm just watching. Ooh, yeah, getting very sideways. So yeah, Mark's certainly throwing this car around, but it's not something that you want around a street circuit.
No, indeed. We have Simon Wattman standing in again for Los Angeles Drywall, the number 31 white and blue machine. And we have Alberto Equino. I believe he is now. I believe he's now out of the Penske chassis, but yeah, that's not Penske, is it?
Have a look.
I think that is now back to the March chassis.
Yeah, I believe that could be a March, but I'll have a quick look.
I believe that is what it is back to being again. And we have Oscar Tim as well back with us in the Hardy's machine. And the Machinist Union Racing entry.
Yeah, I'm just having a look now. The Penske chassis that little I was racing is that is the Penske.
Pardon.
Penske P6.
Sorry, pardon, Mark. Mark is from Austria, not Germany. Apologies. We'll get that right on the entry list if we haven't already as well later on. Sorry for cutting you off there. Ryan, go on.
That's okay. I was just going to say I checked on the forum quickly, and it's the Penske P16, and there's the Mark's 86C chassis with the Elmore Chevy 2658 engine that I was racing tonight.
So I believe that is the back to the March chassis then, because that did not quite look like the Penske, I don't think. As such. Anyway, field now lining up on the curved start-finish straight. Getting ready for a one pace/formation lap. Gets a little bit of heat into the engines and the tires and the brakes, and then they'll be off for 103 laps of utter bumpy mayhem.
Yeah, real life drivers, but when they used to race, a few real life drivers that used to race in IndyCar or kart as it was known back in the day, did say that this track in real life was notoriously bumpy in some parts of the track, and
Mm.
they trying to get the car set up for the bumpy section of the track was a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah, I seem to remember it was a car breaker, especially for suspension and gearboxes, for many years. So, to look through the grid, we have Vadim Tachak starting on pole for Archie Aero Racing. David Yates will line up second for Doug Shearson Racing. Brian Yannick third for Reino Racing, so very good run for Brian in the Juha Reino machine. Anders Nilsson lines up fourth, with Richard Wilkes in fifth, Richard Coxon in sixth, with Schlapinski in seventh, Ray Riddall in eighth, Oscar Tim up in ninth, very nice qualifying for him, and Peter Lavach rounds out the top 10, with Jon Team in 11th, with Adam Hackman in 12th, David Saber in 13th, with Matheus da Silva in 14th. Jos Bouchard will start from 15th, with Keo Michiels in 16th. Jason Fitch will start from 17th, with Francisco Amaral in 18th. Mark Wittmann will start from 19th, with August Watering in 20th. Mike Olson will start from 21st, with Brun Chacon starting from 22nd. Simon Wattman will start from 23rd, with Grant Riddall in 24th. Luciano Roja in 25th, with Alberto Quino starting from 26th and last. As we are now getting ready to head through the final couple of kinks, and then the green flag will be out. And hold on to your hats, everyone, because turn 3 will be very interesting indeed.
Absolutely, as they come round the final couple of corners, now heading to the start-finish line, and they're just about to get underway.
So coming through this kink, and the green flag is out, and we are racing here tonight. And it looks like David Yates with a very good start. Looks like Tachak breaks up the inside though and holds on. With Yates in second, Yannick in third. So top 3 remaining as they were. Oh, we have a yellow out already. Oh dearie me, that's Matheus da Silva, and looks like that is Oscar Tim. Oscar Tim with a lot of damage to his car.
We've got a red flag.
Coxon is stationary as well. Oh dearie me, and there's more car parts further around the track, and Coxon is out already. Wow. So let's see what happened here from his point of view. Coming through turn 1, everything is okay. Oscar Tim on his inside. Oh, so Oscar, I think, clipped the inside barrier coming through turn 2, I think. And it looks like we have a complete restart by the looks of things. There were quite a few cars troubled by all of that. So scrap that situation. We have one restart, I'd assume. If there's another one like that, it'll be dealt with post-race.
Yeah, there was always a good possibility of there was going to be some mayhem on lap 1, just because turn 1 it looks wide on the entry, but it's halfway around turn 1 it seems it gets a lot tighter, especially on the exit, and just mayhem ensued, and yeah, it's no surprise we've got a restart. But I think I think it's just going to be the nature of the race. So that it's just because the pack's so close that mayhem around here is always a high possibility.
And it's one of those situations as well with street circuits in particular that you can be like 6th or 7th and you have no idea what's going on up ahead, and all of a sudden as you come around one of these barriers, because you can't see around them, there's a car standing there and you go, well, hi, and then contact is made and race is either severely compromised or over.
Yeah, absolutely. And before before the red flag, David Jakes got a fantastic start on lap 1 and managed to gain a position into turn 1 as well. So, yeah, David Jakes putting his knowledge of the Canadian track to good use.
Indeed. And I'd think this is one track where he wants to do really well, because, as you say, it is a home race for him.
Yeah, I believe there's another Canadian driver in this field today as well, but I can't remember who it is.
It is Jules Bouchard.
Jules Bouchard. I'll say again, Jules Bouchard is I believe he's French Canadian or just a.
He at least has a French Canadian sounding name. I honestly don't know which. If he's like French Canadian or just Canadian. And if anyone takes offense at that kind of distinction, I apologize.
Yep, I apologise as well if anyone's offended by that. It's Canadian or it's from the Montreal region of Canada, pretty much. Because I know some people say that they prefer to be called French Canadian or just Canadian. It looks like we're underway again.
Ooh, Schlapinski up the inside. That looked very tight indeed. Let's see if everyone is able to survive. Looks like Schlapinski got through it, and that was Hlavac very slow, so Hlavac affected by that. And let's see, down into the hairpin on the first lap. Wilkes under attack from Schlapinski. Looks like everyone is more or less surviving and getting through all right. Looks like it. So Tachak has held on to the lead, followed by Jakes, Yannick, then Wilkes and Schlapinski, Nilsson, Coxon, Riddall, Tim, followed by his brother Tim, and Alberto Quino with a very good start, gaining 4 or 5 positions back there. So first lap completed now. Tachak still holding on to the lead.
That's but David Jakes. I was just going to say David Jakes not letting him get away easily as Brian Janik's managing to hold on to these guys in front of him as well. And at the moment, it seems to be everyone's been relatively clean on lap 1.
Indeed, but now Nilsson attacked Schlapinski into turn 1, got held up, and Coxon looking up the inside, and that almost looks like a boosting past Nilsson there for Coxon. So Coxon up to 6th, Nilsson down to 7th. Oh, and Schlapinski also went past Wilkes. So I wonder if Wilkes is running the long game and Schlapinski is trying to get on a little bit here.
Yeah, it's a good possibility. Maybe Schlapinski is thinking about track position for the pit stop and doesn't want to be held up too long. Or, like you say, Richard Wilkes could be playing the long game and just doing a little bit of fuel saving already. So fuel saving around here, it can definitely help you in the pit stop and gain a couple of seconds.
Indeed, and it looks like unfortunately a couple of our Brazilian friends have been in trouble. Chacon and Da Silva both in the pits, and it looks like they are in for repairs. Pardon me. Oh, and a battle going on there between Grant Riddall and David Saber. Looks like Grant was able to make his way past, and Oscar Tim trying to attack back as well. So the battle is on for just outside the top 10. And Grant, one of those hard charges on the start. I think he started from 24th or 25th and already up into... Sorry, maybe not that far back, but he's gained at least 10 positions in these opening few laps.
Yeah, Grant's one of those people, I remember from the F1 86 series, I think it was, that when it came to getting through the field quickly. He used to use the boost button. It looks like he's using the boost again, and he's making a move up into turn 1, up the outside of John Team, up into 10th place.
And one of our Brazilian friends there was either Chacon or Da Silva rejoining as well. That was a very nice pass, and that could just as well have been because Jon got a little bit sideways coming off the final turn, as now David Saber looking up the inside of Jon as well and gets the position done indeed. Looked like Jon was going to try and fight it a little bit around the outside, but decided not to. And now Grant trying to hunt down Peter Hlavac. What looks like Fitch and Amaral had a bit of a battle as well for a moment or two.
And it looks like Grant's about to make another move as well. He's about to. Is he going to try and go around the outside into turn 1 and on Peter Hlavac? No, he can't get the move done as Peter manages to hold on to the position. But I think Grant will use the boost button and try and make a move heading down to turn 3.
Well, Hlavac trying to hold on. Looks like Grant is very, very strong through the final set of sweeping turns and trying to use that, but obviously a little bit troublesome when a car is reasonably quick there as well.
Yeah, it looks like Peter's got another Riddell in front of him, which is a rare Riddell. So yeah, Peter at the moment is stuck in a Riddell sandwich, and it looks like Grant's trying to make a move on the outside into turn 1. Can he get a move done? He cuts the wall. That was a bit risky, Grant. I know he's getting frustrated there, but trying to pass on the outside into turn 1 is never ever a good decision. It looks like he's up the inside of his father, Ray Riddell.
Yeah, that looked like Ray was going, go on, son. But yeah, that was very brave, very dangerous, and just barely got it off. And I hope for Grant's sake that he didn't pick up any kind of damage from all of that. Because this is, like many street circuits, a place where I'd rather not run with a damaged car at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Damage around a street track is something that you don't really want, because it's always in the back of your mind that if it might affect the handling, and but possibly if you're in the middle of a corner, it could just all of a sudden could snap on you, and without you expecting it. But it doesn't seem to be affecting Grant too much at the moment, and yeah, it's already closing down Anders Nielsen.
Indeed, and it looks like Brian Yannick has had a moment. Maybe that's a disconnection. Definitely looks like it. That's way off the track. That is highly unfortunate. He was up in third at the time.
Yeah, it looks like it could be a disconnection, but this, from my end anyway, it looks like it just says a DNF.
That's very unfortunate for him. So that means Tachak and Yakes out in front by about 2.5 seconds ahead of Slapinski, who recently set the fastest lap of the race. And I think they were followed by Richard Wilkes. And then we have this scrap now between Anders Nielsen and Grant Riddell. It looks like Anders is with this more old school style of, go on hotshot, show me what you got, I'll simply hook on to you.
Yeah, I think Anders is just thinking of the long game at the moment. With it being a 103 lap race, we're only well, basically pretty much say halfway around lap 7, and I think he's maybe just being conservative at the moment and just looking after the car and looking after the tires.
Indeed. And my apologies, my throat is not wanting to cooperate at the moment. And Cesaric with another fastest lap, 1:05.7. That is, I'd say, quite blistering. Oh no, that's Jason Fitch just struck the wall heavily and has a puncture. Oh, and again strikes the wall and picks up even more damage. I wonder if that may be race over for the Gore Racing driver. He'll at least try to get the car back to the pits, and looks like Mark Wittmann is in the pits as well for repairs. So that's highly unfortunate for Mark, but hopefully he'll be able to rejoin the race here as Simon Wattmann goes past along with Luciano Rocha. And Mike Olsen in the Penske, 21st at the moment. And Matheus da Silva and Brun Chacon still out there running as well. That's Grant Ridall now with the fastest lap.
He does. It looks like I think it looked like Brian Janik is in the YouTube chat. It says that I think he said his game froze.
That's very unfortunate. Really sorry to hear that. But that's one as a sim racer you choke down to effectively like an electrical failure or like any sort of minor like few pence piece on one of these cars breaking and forcing you to retire. That's sort of the way to try and save your mentals, I'd say. I don't know about you.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. It looks like back up at the front is still Vadim Tezegak leading the race, but David Jakes is still putting on under huge pressure, but not too far behind. And someone has made good progress at the moment. About as known as Richard Coxon up there in third place and not too far behind.
Indeed, and hooking on to Richard is Schlapinski as well, and closing in from behind. It looks like all the top 5 are closing together here. Richard Wilkes behind them 2.5 seconds, and it looks like he is closing in. Obviously then Grant Ridall in 6th as well.
Looks like possibly... Sorry about yawning there, I was trying to hold it in. But Vadim, I think Vadim's maybe just backing off a little bit and looking after the car, and I think Jakes is maybe not pushing too hard, but maybe just trying to keep the gap and maintain the gap there, and just try and stay. That was a bit of a close moment there, but it looks like Coxon is managing to close down David Jakes, and it could be a short matter of time before he makes a move on David Jakes.
Oh, and he's actually going for it right here now.
Ooh! I thought there was a slight bit of contact there, but it's just a bit of getting going wheel to wheel.
Well driven, fellas. Good job on avoiding each other. And look at that, immediately 2 seconds adrift from Tatchak as he gets to run on his own for a moment. As David Saber has just retired. Looks like it could be another engine failure. Oh no, oh dearie me! Ay. That looked like a brake problem, and Grant and Ray Ridall got caught up in it as well. Just going to see if he is still out there running or not. Looks like Ray is still running, but he will need repairs. He has lost his front wing. Oh, and Jules Bouchard sort of with nowhere to go there, didn't know which way to go. Oh, as up ahead, Francisco Amaral under attack from Oscar team. Oh no, there's contact! And Francisco Amaral spins. That was 2 cars looking for one same piece of tarmac, and that's never going to work.
Yep, yeah, trying to, especially in that section of the track where there's not really any room for 2 cars to go in the same space. Yeah, it's just unfortunate. Only one thing was going to happen, and then unfortunately it did.
Indeed, and now the leaders are catching up to traffic, so the distances between them will probably close up even more. As Mike Olsen there jumps into the pit lane to try and get out of the way and get some space. As Cox are now right up behind David Yates again, and Yates likewise on Tachak. And slower traffic up ahead.
Yep, traffic trying to...
Ooh, and the traffic looks to be fighting, were they? No, okay, was simply trying to get out of the way. Ooh.
This is the problem coming into this section of the track. When you catch traffic, there's not really anywhere the traffic can go or get out of the way. And
ooh, Coxon had a thought about it.
Yeah, I was going to say Coxon thought about taking a look there for a second, but decided against it. And traffic trying to stay on the outside there and try and not hold the leaders up too much. But look at this battle up at the front. This is fantastic stuff.
Indeed, well done, Simon, on staying out of the way like you did. Really nicely done, but this 4-way battle now is right up against each other. Oh, and Slapinski with a bit of a loose moment as well. All of them working really hard right now. And I reckon around now the rear tires will be starting to cry a little bit as well with all the punishment, because there's quite relatively slow corners and you need to try and get the power down into the tarmac, and you spin up the rears and they sort of go every which way. And Slapinski now slightly looking up the outside of Coxon there. I don't think that will work in the hairpin, although later on it could possibly work, I suppose. Low fuel and just going for it, as unfortunately Mike Olsen has retired, as had I think that was Watering I noticed had retired as well, which looks to have happened quite a while ago, unfortunately. But the 4-way battle continues, and now Wilkes is closer than ever.
Yeah, it's getting closer now, and you're talking about tyres as well, and drivers struggling with them. I think I wouldn't be surprised if we get to somewhere, maybe if we get close to maybe lap 25 or between lap 25 and 30, and see some drivers maybe dive into the pits to get some new rubber, or just get out of the traffic and get some clear air.
That could definitely happen, as now Slapinski slingshots, absolutely blasts past Coxon on more boost and a decent run. And that's also an aspect, obviously. How much fuel are you using? How much fuel do you have left? Especially if we get no yellows.
Marcus trying to stay out of the way there.
Yeah, that was Chacon, I believe, getting way out of the way. Nicely done.
Look at the top 4 now. They're all together in the same picture, and I wouldn't be surprised if Jakes tries and make a move heading across the line, heading down to turn 1. As he's a lot closer than he has been before.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. It's interesting to see slightly different driving styles and slightly different setup options as well being used here, with very different lines being taken by at least two by two of these drivers, possibly even more differences. But Slapinski definitely with a run down towards turn 3. Trying to look up the inside, but ain't happening there. At least not this time around. Oh no, Coxon has a spin. Oh, and
no.
Wilkes and Riddle hits each other as well. Oh, this is a traffic jam. Dear me. Oh, and Nilsson nearly rear-ends Wilkes as well. And Simon Wattman in there too. Oh, I think Wilkes in trouble there. Looks like a puncture from the contact that he had with Grant Riddall, and Grant Riddall without a front wing, obviously. Yeah, that's definitely that's at least suspension, if not a puncture for Wilkes. That is very unfortunate for the very consistent drive that he has had during this season so far. And I'd assume Grant will be heading into the pits as Keo Michiels has retired as well. So quite a few retirements this early on.
Yeah, maybe some drivers just pushing too hard at the early stages of the race. We're only on a lap 17 at the moment by our drivers just being caught up in incidents, and yeah, it's unfortunate to see, but still, the top three are all still together at the front with Vadim Tesiak and David Jackson, Cesarius Slabinski, still all close together on track. I wonder if any of these guys will maybe try and pit early and try and make a jump.
Could definitely.
David Jakes gets sideways there. Sorry to interrupt.
No, go on.
I was just saying, David Jakes got sideways on the braking there and just manages to hold it.
And unfortunately for us, that means the possible 6-way fight for the lead is now down to 3. At least for now. As Grant rejoins after repairs 1 lap down. And let's see, since we got, I suppose, a little bit of a lull in the action, seeing as we haven't brought it up yet, and we're nearly a quarter of the way through, let's have a look at the trivia question for this event. Who won the last kart-sanctioned IndyCar race at Exhibition Place on July 8th, 2007? Was it A. Will Power, B. Paul Tracy, or was it C. Simon Pagenaud? A little something for you all to ponder for the rest of this event. I will say I had it wrong when I first had a guess on that one. And it does look like, at least for now, that Slapinski is possibly holding back a little bit, possibly saving some fuel. Because he has dropped back considerably from Yakes and Tachak. As Coxon does the fastest lap of the race. Again, very quick car, it seems, as the fuel burns down. And the rest of the top 10 at the moment is Hlavac in 5th for Bethenhausen, Anders Nilsson in 6th, Jon Team in 7th, his brother Oscar in 8th, Jus Bugade in 9th, and Little Al rounding out the top 10.
Yeah, I was going to say, Little Al's been slowly getting through the field up into the top 10 now. He's just been having a quiet run at the moment. It's sometimes a quiet run around the track, such as Toronto, is always a good thing. Just let everyone else have their own issues and just pick up the places when the chance arrives. And yeah, in the top 10 so far, and good to see the two team brothers in 7th and 8th as well.
Indeed. We have seen... Oh, Richard Wilkes is out of the race, so that was too much damage to that car. And Simon Wattman has had a bit of a spin as well in the old March 85, and unfortunately looks like he has lost his front wing as well. That looks like a bit too much throttle on coming out of a slow turn, and it definitely looks like that. So that's unfortunate, but Simon at least roughly on the spot for a normal stop, I'd think. Maybe a little early, but should be possible to stretch it. And as I was going to say, we have seen Jon Team put on some very good drives. Oscar more of a newcomer, but looks like, ooh, as I say that, he has a big moment on the brakes. Just barely survives, I think. Oscar's had a bit more trouble putting on throwing out the pace, but it looks like, at least for this race and track, that he is up there for sure. Although now the car looks a little bit crooked. And it's looking somewhat unpleasant to drive. But hopefully it won't be too big of an issue. And he'll be able to keep it up there. And now Anders sweating on Lavach quite a bit. Let's ride on board with Lavach for a moment and watch back over his rear wing towards Anders Nilsson. And Coxon again with the fastest lap as well. So he's definitely putting some very quick laps together. But unfortunately for himself, it's 5-6 seconds up to the leading trio. And looks like Nilsson now has a bit of, at least had a bit of a run, but looks like he's not going to use that run.
Yeah, it looks like Ganders is just happy to stay behind for the moment, but as I say that, he's actually getting a lot closer now on the breaker, and I think if he gets an opportunity on the next lap, he might try and go for a move on Lavak and maybe try and take that 5th position. But I think at the moment he's just watching the body language. He doesn't seem to be like overly eager or in a rush to get by.
No, indeed, and I noticed Oscar Tim unfortunately has pitted for repairs, so the car was damaged from all of that, just like it looked to be. And Grant is pushing on here. Buchard in 8th, Jon Tim still in 7th then, and here is Nilsson and Lavach coming down towards turn 3, and Alberto Quino has retired as well.
Oh no.
Oh dear me.
Yeah, looks like a. Yeah, not sure what happened to it.
Ooh. Looked like he hit the inside barrier coming through the final turn, turn 11. And the car shot out into the outside barrier on the pit straight and absolutely destructed itself. Very good job by Alberto to not let the car wander too much into the racing line as it were over there. And now Riddle flying past Hackman. So that's unfortunate for little Al, but very good run up until that point. Looks like status quo up front for the time being, so let's go back to this battle between Hlavac and Nilsson, the closest battle on track at the moment.
Yeah, it looks like Anders has just dropped back slightly. Maybe just made a mistake or made the mistake heading round the final few corners, heading across the line. But I think, like I say, he looks more than happy to just sit behind at the moment.
And there's also the aspect of the tires. If you do abuse them too much, they do get a bit hot, so it's a bit like the real life, both with engine and tires, where sure you can give it a go for a few laps, but then you need to let them cool if you don't get past.
Yeah, and just sit behind as well. You can just, like you say, you can look after the tires as well, and they maybe save some of the tires and they not overdrive or use them up too much. As I think Anders, yeah, I've known Anders for quite a long time now, and his driving style has always been, from what the times I've watched, he's always been super smooth. He's not one of those drivers that will just throw the car around and just not take any risks. He's a very smooth driver.
Looks like he's again up with Lavage now, so let's see if he will go past or if he is indeed, as you say, just sitting there and saving fuel, tires and the rest of it, just cruising. It looks like that is indeed the case. Maybe even running with lower boost than to properly save on the fuel. Oh, looked like Lavage may have struck the wall on the outside of turn 1-2 there.
It's like Anders is a lot closer now, heading down to turn 3, but still, I thought he pulled out there, just showing he's there, and I think Havertz is maybe feeling a little bit intimidated now.
Well, it's one of those as a driver. Anders will have seen that Lavage had a bit of a moment. And that's like a shark with a bit of blood in the water. Just checking in on the leaders, because I noticed first and second was close together, but not as close as it seemed.
You know, it was like Havertz and Nielsen are coming up to a back marker now, and they catch up to the back marker in the wrong place, and yeah, it looks like. Oh, actually, thinking about it, Havertz has not lost too much time, and neither has Nielsen. So, yeah, Nielsen scrapes the wall.
That definitely shows that both These guys are going really hard, and Bruno did a fantastic job of getting out of the way, being easy to read as such. Which is, here at ISO, all we ask for, that you remain with the line you have picked, and let the faster cars find a way around you to the extent that it's possible for you to simply stick to your line. Where someone seemed to have understeered quite considerably through turn 1 and maybe struck the wall on a lap previous. Saw some tyre marks alluding to such a situation.
Yep, and Niels is a lot closer to Lavats now, and a lot closer than he has been before, and maybe deciding to turn it up a little bit and try and get by Peter as quickly as possible. But again, Peter just seems to pull away ever so slightly.
It sort of looks like different philosophies in setup between these two drivers. As I noticed, Tachak just dipped into the 104s, which is absolutely blistering pace. Even towards the end of a fuel stint, it is really, really quick.
Absolutely. I wonder if Peter's maybe going for maybe a slightly lower downforce setup for the straights, just for straight line speed.
Could definitely be. I believe he's in a year-old March, which makes that a very high possibility, as Schlapinski now does the fastest lap of the race, so top 3 really trying hard and going fast. And that's not to say that Lavach or Nelson or Coxon is trying any less. It's just that the top 3 is getting the pace out of the machines at a very high rate of knots. Your assumption there on Lavach is probably right, because you can see how he understeers through the sweeping second turn there, but Anders is able to keep a tighter line, but then down the straight Lavach is still pulling away.
Yeah, absolutely. Just thinking about Lavats as well, I think that Bettenhausen motorsport car that he's running at the moment, I believe that is a year-old chassis, so...
Indeed, a year-old March.
Considering it's a year-old March as well, where he's not doing a bad job.
No, indeed. It looks like Anders is definitely good on fuel. The team wanted to him in, but he has decided to soldier on for a lap or two, as Lavach had a very close moment there with Alan Hackman, that is, in the AJ Foyt Enterprises entry. That was what Ryan reacted to from possibly a slightly different angle. That looked very close indeed.
Yeah, I thought I was going to end up in a big incident there with Peter and Adam there, because the closing speeds were was basically massive, and Peter closed in a lot quicker than I thought he would, and that could have ended up being a big accident across the start-finish line.
Sounded a bit like what you would see in endurance racing between, in modern terms, a P1 versus a GT car.
Yeah, pretty much. It was just the closing speed that amazed me, and I was good heads up, and good reactions from Peter as well to avoid an accident.
And that's again one of those things with these Formula cars, especially or open wheel cars, I suppose I should call them, where, because you don't have a brake light either, when you're getting close to a turn, if someone is braking like, I don't know, car length earlier than you, the closing speed there is immense, and obviously it's very easy to give them a tap up the rear, and then all hell would break loose. Hej Lucy! Vill du vara med och kika lite? Mm. So broadcast assistant Lucy has entered the room. As you might also be able to hear. Or maybe not. As Nilsson is now really close to Lavach, going, ooh, surely not! Oh, wow! Holy moly!
Yeah, I'm just watching there. I think I'm just watching the race. And even a bit of crude just came out.
Yeah, that could very easily be one of those new pants moments, as Hackman has unfortunately retired from 11th. Let's see if we can possibly get back and see what happened to him. Looks like it happened a lap or two ago, so not going to happen. And Jules Bouchard in for what looks like a scheduled stop. And Nilsson still chasing Hlavac for 5th and 6th.
Yeah, I had a feeling that someone was going to put around about like 35 or at minimum like 35, and yeah, Jules Bouchard seems to be the one that's pulled the trigger first, and Anders Nielsen just about up in the gearbox or rear end of Peter Hlavac now, and I think Anders might be able to get a run now. They've got another back marker ahead of them, heading down to turn 3.
Oh, and the back marker in the form of Francisco Amaral very sportingly gets way out of the way. And it looked like Hlavac was able to use the slipstream from Francisco's car to be able to get some very high top-end speed down the straight. So I think Anders' opportunity is if they catch traffic where Hlavac is balked in this back portion of the track, or with a slightly faster pit stop and then use the extra pace he has, as Hlavac now goes into the pits. So this ought to be Anders' opportunity if he can go a lap or two longer on low fuel and blast in a couple of fast ones.
This is pretty much the opportunity now for Anders to try and jump Peter in the pit stops. So it looks like I think Coxon's in the pits as well.
He is indeed.
Or he's just made a pit stop.
He was in the pits and now rejoining again, so fairly quick stop. And as always around these street circuits, when sim racing at least, you need to be very, very eagle-eyed in terms of your pit crew wanting to repair the car if it's feeling okay. Ooh, and scraping the wall again. Really trying hard.
Yeah, he's trying. Anders is pushing as much as possible to try and increase that gap and try and maybe gain a position or two in the pit stop. But I think I don't think he'll be able to jump Coxon because Coxon's not that far behind. But I think Peter, he could possibly jump if he can have a good in-lap or a good couple of in-laps as he actually goes round again and goes round. So Anders is trying to stretch this out as much as possible. It looks like Sopinski's in the pits as well.
Yeah, I think Anders has saved fuel sitting in behind Peter there, and obviously making use of his now touchback out of the pits as well, just in front of Nilsson. So Shlapinski with a somewhat slow stop by looks of things compared to what touchback had by a second or two, as that's Mark Wittmann back out running in the Newman Teamworks car. Ooh!
It looks like Anders being held up by traffic there, and
that is touchback, so that was technically for position. So Touchak not wanting to let Anders go, but Anders obviously much quicker on no fuel in the car compared to Touchak. And
Yeah, so I
Touchak
think
also on cold tires.
yeah, Taziak doesn't want to lose too much time, and I think, but on the other hand, he can't afford to get caught up in a silly incident. So I think he's done a good thing letting Anders go, and I think Anders has definitely saved enough fuel to try and go as long as possible. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if he comes into the pits within maybe the next 3 or 4 laps.
Indeed. And another one who looks to have been able to save a lot of fuel is David Yates as well. Currently still out there leading the race.
He's got about 3.5 seconds at the moment, and I think he's just maintaining that gap at the moment. And like just looking at Taziak as well, he's managing to or starting to close that gap back down to Anders. But I think it's just a matter of time before Anders dives into the pit lanes for his stop.
Indeed. I wonder if has Yakes already pitted and the others too, and that's simply Yakes having had a much faster pit stop, as Anders is now into the pits.
Don't think Jake's has made his pit stop yet, not as far as I'm aware. But yeah, Anders in the pits, and that was a good pit entry he had. And I think I'm keeping an eye on to see where Peter is, and I think Peter should be able to jump Anders quite possibly, as Anders is still in the pit lane and they are leaving the box now. This is going to be so close, I think, and I think Anders might just be able to jump Peter. Peter's coming around the final few corners now, and he's not even at the start-finish line yet. So Anders Nielsen has managed to jump Peter Flavats. Oh!
Cold tires though. Needs to survive a lap or two.
Yeah,
and hold on to the car, as Matheus da Silva unfortunately has retired as well. Picked up some damage earlier on and looks like it finally got too much. Yeah, that was a very nifty thing from Anders. He has 7 seconds of advantage over Hlavac, so Anders making very good use of the saved fuel and gaining all that time.
I wonder as well if Peter at his pit stop, if Peter decided to take some repairs, because 7 seconds, yeah, it seems he lost a bit of time.
Could be. And he now has Grant for very close company as well. And Grant has been looking pacey.
Oh.
Ooh, as Grant slides past. That got very close coming through the final turn 11 left-hander. John Team then still in 8th, having lost out to Grant, but other than that, keeping well up there. Jus Bouchard in the Penske in 9th, and Luciano Rocha now in 10th for Dick Simon. Francisco Amaral 11th. Ray All in 12th, with Oscar Tim in 13th after his repairs. Simon Wattman with a bit of a loose car in 14th, with Brun Chacon 15th. Matheus da Silva unfortunately retired, Hackman likewise. Mark Wittmann still out there running, will be 16th in a few laps time. And it looks like he is the final runner at the moment. That was a very close moment in behind. That was not for Tachak, that was for someone else trying to put a lap on. Got all loose and crossed up, but I think they were able to hold on to it. That looked very dangerous indeed. Let's see, that was Amaral and Oscar team. I think that may have been Oscar who got all crossed up.
Yeah, just looking at the gap at the front as well, and it looks like David Jakes has got the lead up to about 8.8 seconds now. So yeah, I still don't think David Jakes has made his pit stop yet. But I think if he's not made his pit stop yet, I think he's just trying to go as quick as possible and try and build up a bit of a gap before his pit stop, and just pretty much try and stretch out this run as long as possible.
David has indeed pitted. It was on lap 38.
I must have missed that.
So all the leaders have pitted, and David then with a master stroke, 19 seconds in the lead now. Again with a very nifty pit stop strategy. And Slapinski looks to try and catch up to Vadim, and it looks like Slapinski is getting a little bit closer. Coxon 4 seconds now behind, so he has gained a lot of time as well during the pit stops. Nilsson 28 seconds now behind, so it looks like it'll be between the top 4 for the win unless something happens. Grant Vidal trying to catch up to Anders and get up into 5th. And I think he will probably be able to catch him, but whether Grant has used too much fuel and tires is a different matter entirely.
Yeah, it's possible. I think it's been a good recovery from Richard Coxon after being caught up in some incidents on the first start on lap 1, and then just being caught up in a bit of mayhem in the early stages of the second start. But at the moment, still doing well to run in 4th place at the moment, and I think not too far behind Slapinski either by the looks of it.
No, indeed. And now with what is 16 cars still running, the traffic is not quite as thick either, so the drivers will now more or less be able to run at the pace they want. Relatively, at least. Looks like Coxon on a full tank of fuel is not quite as quick as the other drivers yet again. That Lola, that Lola 87 is quite interesting in that regard, and I think maybe that's also partly down to how Richard drives as well.
Yeah, indeed. I think Coxon. I think he might have just. I think he must have just filled up with a full tank just to try and go as long as possible. And yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if some drivers were maybe just trying to do 103 laps. I'm guessing maybe it could be a free stop race, or it's probably pretty much a. Yeah, I think it could be a free stop race at the moment if some drivers pitted early, but. I think some drivers might try and go as long as possible and maybe just try and cut out a stop or maybe trying to save time by not doing a splash and dash.
Based on how long they went, 38 laps, it's probably a two-stop for at least the leading quartet, I'd assume, but as you say, some others may try a shorter stints and try to get the car as light and fast as possible at all times. Now down to below 2 seconds between Shlapinski and Tachak, with a lapped car in between them still, but looks like it's definitely closing up. Rocha with a very sporting move there.
Yeah, I was going to say, good heads-up driving there from him from Rocha to stay out of the way, and Slapinski is absolutely on it at the moment. It looks like I thought I was Coxon, but right behind him there, but it's just a back marker. But Slapinski at the moment is absolutely pushing to try and he gets a little bit sideways down in the exit of turn 1.
And I think he actually scraped the wall on the outside coming out of turn 2 as well. It definitely looks like down the straight at least that Slapinski might be boosting a little bit, but it could also be down to again a different philosophy in terms of the wing setup. Because they get very close here, but Tachak looks to be a little bit closer in these sweeping turns and pull out the gap again. Ooh, and Tachak, Shlapinski again looked like from car language that he made contact with the barriers.
Yeah, I heard the scraping sound on the wall, or yeah, it sounded like a scraping sound on the wall. So Shlapinski is definitely pushing for sure and trying to keep that gap, keep a big gap to Coxon and try and not lose too much time to Kaziak as well. But I think at the moment Slapinski is in a battle for third place at the moment.
Well, he's definitely pushing no matter what. That car is... I'd stretch it to call it a little bit sketchy at the moment. Ooh. Really driving it with a throttle pedal rather than the steering wheel. Effectively saying, okay, front end, go to roughly here. And then throttle going, okay, let's work it, there we are. No, that's a bit much, that's a bit little, there we go. It's impressive to watch, but again, I'd say that's not quite what I would prefer for such a long race. And Yakes in the lead, still stretching out the gap as well. Oh, unfortunately I now notice Mark Wittmann has retired as well.
Yeah, I was just about to say I did notice that Mark disappeared off the server, so I think he said he had an engine failure.
Ah, no. Well, it's one of those things with these cars. You can't push them too hard, or they'll very quickly say, nah, rather not. Happened quite a while ago, so we won't be able to get it on a replay. Oh no, another engine! That's Francisco Amaral. As Grant Riddle says, the fastest lap of the race. So Francisco Amaral, I think that was coming out of turn 1. So down towards... Yep, that looks like it gave up on a downshift. Possibly a bit too many revs, and the engine immediately went on him, and that's race over for Francisco, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. It seems to be these cars. It's so easy. It's so easy to get an engine failure in these cars because if you rev them too high or miss a shift of these cars, especially when it comes to downshifting, or use too much boost, you can blow the engine. And it's unfortunate some drivers are getting engine failures, but I think maybe just pushing them too much on the stage of the race.
Indeed. And it looks like for now the difference between Ślepinski and Tachak has stabilized to somewhere in the region of 2 to 3 seconds, depending on where on the track they are located. Let's actually take a moment here and ride on board with David Yates, who clearly at the moment has this track and race in his grasp, and see how he works the engine, the throttle, the brakes and the gears as he goes around this track and holds on to the lead for now.
Sorry about that. I just had to take my headset off because I ended up sneezing.
Bless you then. And we've been riding on board with the Yates for a couple of laps here, and it's noticeable how much fuel saving he is doing. So clearly having to work from now on towards the end of the race to save some fuel by the sound of things, because obviously no yellow so far.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing. Excuse me. That's the thing with these races as well. If there's no yellow, yeah, trying to fuel save can be a bit difficult, and it's you've got to basically try everything possible to save fuel. That such as turning the boost down or doing some lifting and coasting in some of these corners, or just basically just stuff like that. But I think at the moment it seems to have settled down, and hasn't been any safety cars or yellows. So like at the moment, some of these drivers are probably hoping for a yellow, but at the moment with the basically there's not as much cars left on the track as there was before. So I think there's a low chance of a yellow at the moment.
No, indeed, and I noticed Schlapinski has taken second away from Tatchak, and it happened a few laps ago. Looked like it could have been traffic induced. Schlapinski had a run down the Lakeshore Boulevard and was able to brake around outside, and then also get past a lapped car, and that meant his position was secured. And in terms of fuel as well, it's a case of in the real life races it was rarely discussed because there were often yellows, because there were rarely everyone finishing. A few races that there were no retirees out on track and no yellows, it was very obvious that they indeed had to fuel save in those events as well. Which is one of the great things with all of this, that it gets that close to real life as we are able to get.
Absolutely, as Slapinski as well. He looks like he's managed to pull away slightly from Taziak as well. So I don't know if Vadim's maybe feel saving slightly as well, and they not wanting to push too much at the moment. But Sapinski pulled away, and just behind Sapinski is looks like Grant Riddle, I believe, but he's
It is.
a back marker.
Effectively a back marker, yeah, but with the pace of the leading cars, which obviously is somewhat troublesome for both of them, I reckon. Because Lapinski obviously will need to have an eye in his mirror just in case Grant decides that, nah, this is going too slow, I'll re-unlap myself, as here he comes. Obviously there's still lapped cars as well in front that they need to work around. In this case it's Jonatan and Slapinski off the line, gets all crossed up, and Jon has to re-enter the line to get through the next turn and then let Tachak by. So all in all it was an even let by, but there we can see how troublesome a lapped car in that section can be.
Indeed, as Grant Riddle managed to get by Sapinski and go after the people in front of him. But John Team, it was good heads up driving from him, and didn't hold up Tazia too much. But John Team still running inside the top 10, even though he's 2 laps down now. So, but Sapinski is sideways on the exit of turn 1 there, and just about clips the wall again.
Indeed, and I now see why Grant wanted to unlap himself. He just gained back 6th position from Hlavac, so presumably they all pitted, and obviously Peter's pit stop was a little bit quicker than what Riddle's were. Your team ain't too far behind either, so that's a nice little battle group that could develop. And Tachak here doing his best to try and keep up with Slapinski and open up an opportunity. As they are closing in, they are probably, I'd say, roughly 10 laps away from their last pit stop. Give or take a few laps either way.
Yeah, I think the last pit stop should be around about 10 laps, I believe, or round about 10 laps. But I think some drivers will try maybe try and stretch it to lap 80, I believe, or between lap 75 and between 75 and 80.
Definitely a very high possibility of that. And I suppose the question is, can you keep the Ilmo Mercedes engine story within 10 laps time?
That
was Oscar team with a bit of a moment at turn 2 exit, and Vadim barely not smacking into the rear of him. I think he may have scraped the wall and a little bit of that, but other than that, they both survived and all is well.
Yeah, I was just about to say I reacted to the same thing that you saw with Oscar team. I had to hold my breath there and hope he held that. But that was good car control.
Indeed. Dear me. Right, so Ryan, what's the interesting story with that Ilmo Mercedes engine?
So I can't remember the story exactly, but when it came to the 1994 Indianapolis 500, I think it was I think it was Penske or Mercedes went to either one of them went to each other and spoke to them about running a Mercedes engine, but no one knew it. No one knew about this engine that was being built for the Penske team by Mercedes or Elmore as they were called as well at the time. And yeah, everyone there was no one was allowed to. There was only certain people that were allowed to build the engine for the Penske team. There was only certain people allowed or certain people that knew about it, and it was basically when Penske rocked up to the 1994 Indianapolis 500 and basically, how can you say what is it, a blustering pace that everyone was a bit suspicious, and it basically came out during the Indy 500 they practice, or basically the whole Indy 500 month, the month of May, but at Penske and the Mercedes had made an engine. They with it was basically pushing the boundaries of the rules, you could say. But on the other hand, Penske and Mercedes found a loophole, and it's pretty much that engine was pretty much bulletproof for the month of May, apart from what was it, basically Emerson Fittipaldi crashing towards the end of the race and Paul Tracy having an engine failure. But yeah, if you want to see how powerful and how quick that engine was, what's Alonso Junior's qualifying run for the 94 500. It's probably one of the best runs that I've not, or probably one of the best runs I've watched.
Hmm.
And actually,
After this broadcast, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, thinking about it, I've got it written down. It was in the summer of 1993 that Elmore and Penske engaged in a new engine program under. It was a complete secret. So, like I said, there was only certain people within Mercedes or Penske that knew about it, but it was pretty much a secret within both camps.
Hmm. And that sort of proves how much they both considered it a very high-profile thing.
Oh, and I think Vadim Tesiak is just blowing engine.
Oh, really? Deary me.
So yeah, that's promoted Richard Coxon up into third place, and Anders. I was about to say Anders Olsson. I mean Anders Nielsen into fourth.
That's a few years further back, Olofsson.
I always get mixed up with Olsson and Nielsen.
Well, Anders Olofsson was a real-life driver, and Tuchak indeed had a blown engine. Dear me. He was one of the Nissan drivers back in the Winfield days of Nissan at Mount Panorama.
Yep, I remember that well, and I think that was with Winfield, and I think it was who was it ran that team at that program again? Was it Gibson?
Fred Gibson, thank you. I couldn't remember the last name, but indeed it was Fred Gibson who ran that program for Nissan, with help from Winfield for many years. And I believe it was then Fred Gibson who put together what effectively became the Ford Performance Racing stable.
Yep, I believe it was, and yeah, I believe it was. It was a Ford Performance Racing that Gibson ran, and then I think I can't remember. I could be wrong. I think it was Pro Driver ran the FPR for a while, and then basically FPR got changed to, was it Tickford Racing, I think?
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
So yeah, Gibson Motorsports went through quite a few changes in the past, but when they ran the Nissan GTRs, they were pretty much say rockets.
Indeed. With some very decent peddlers along the way as well, in the form of Scaife and Jim Richards.
Yep. Looks like, but yeah, we're on lap 70, so I wouldn't be surprised if I wouldn't be surprised if I see people maybe making a pit stop within the next 5 to 10 laps.
Definitely sounds like a high probability. We know they can make roughly 38 laps in a stint. So I think 75 would be the... Would it be? 93, 83, 73. Yeah, so they could technically spit now if they wish to. It's just a question of how much fuel do they have left to put in the car.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, that's a very good point. It's how some of the drivers up at the front might have a strategy plan of maybe just a strategy plan and sticking to it and don't want to compromise it. But still, it's David Jakes leading the race by 6.4 seconds from Cezarius Slapinski and Coxon in third. And it's pretty much been a quiet race, and up to fourth place has been lapped, and it's pretty much all the top three still close together. As I say that, David Jakes into the pits on lap 71.
So he is now pitting for the final time. He will have then 31-ish, 30 to 31 laps to make on this final stint. And based on what we've seen, that should definitely be possible. And Coxon goes by as well, as Jakes just leaves. So let's see what Slapinski decides to do. How long will he dare to stay out?
Yeah, I wonder if, thinking about it, I wonder if Slapinski will pit at the end of this lap to try and cover off David Jakes.
Could definitely happen.
But I think if I was Slapinski, I think you would want to have a gap of round about between 25 to 30 seconds, or maybe if you can try and stretch it out an extra couple of laps or try and go as long as possible. I think you could be able to get that gap up to about I'm guessing 27 seconds.
Well, he's definitely trying. This is by far the best run Slapinski has had so far this year. Since Portland, round 2. So Slapinski back up near the front of the field and looks quite happy with it. Although the car still is looking very sketchy in the rear end, very nervous.
Oh, he's getting a bit sideways there, so he's definitely pushing, trying to build up as much of a gap, and he's got that gap up to David Jakes up to 28 seconds now, so Slapinski is definitely pushing.
And maybe he'll be able to underfuel the car further and have a quicker pit stop as well. Ooh, but that car is not looking happy. That is very loose in the rear.
Yeah, so I wonder if it's not helping that he's got a back marker in front of him. It looks like it's one of the. I'm trying to.
It's a Newman Haas entry of Ray Rideau.
He gets held up. Yeah, it's a Newman Haas car, and it's Ray Rideau, and Slapinski just gets held up ever so slightly, but manages to get by, and he's got another back marker in front of him. It looks like is that the John team or Oscar?
It is Jon. It is indeed. Oh, and he moves way out of the way. Go by. I don't want anything to do with this. And I noticed Grant Rideau struck the wall in the foreground, and Grant is out as well. So Grant picked up a puncture in that wall hit by the looks of things. Looks like he understeered at turn 1. Oh, actually oversteered on entry to turn 1, then understeered. Or slid further out into the barrier and then hit the barriers again a couple of times as the puncture took hold, and that's all she wrote for Grant, unfortunately. Really good run, but not to be for any major points tonight either.
Yep, and Slopinski is into the pits now, so I think this could be. I think this could be very, very close. As I'm watching Slopinski to see when he gets going, and
Yates coming now.
Jake's just went by.
And Yates scraped the wall a little bit, so that's a bit of damage possibly picked up. And meanwhile, Coxon is still out of running, but only 7 odd seconds in front, so looks like Coxon will be happy with third here and just extend his championship lead a little bit, keeping it consistent at a track where I think that Lola is not quite as well suited as it has been to other locations over the year so far. And he has some traffic in front as well with the Oscar team and the Machinists Union entry. But Coxon again able to make a lot of fuel in these runs. Looks like he'll have a very short pit stop coming up. It looks like despite gaining that much time, as much time as Slopinski did, he's still 7 odd seconds behind Yates. Oh, Slopinski even had a very slow pit. No, he's had troubles. He's been in the wall.
Oh, yeah,
That's a puncture, I think.
Yeah, I think he might have just hit the wall with one of the tires, and yeah, he's got a puncture because it's scraping on the ground, and yeah, it was so unfortunate because Slopinski was having a great run.
Oh no, don't tell me. Oh no, he's already got a puncture, yeah, so looks like he understeered on cold tires in turn 1 or 2 and hit the barriers and punctured the left rear and had to limp around the whole track. Then get into the pits, repair the car and change tires, so Nilsson up into third and Hlavac might even be able to get up into fourth. That's so unfortunate for Slopinski.
Coxon's in the pits as well, isn't Coxon's in the pits and just pulling away now, and I think yeah, Slopinski. I wonder if he got suspension damage from that as well.
Probably did. That's a very long pit stop. So Hlavac will go up into fourth. Coxon down to third. Anders Nilsson up to second. So Anders with another relatively quiet drive. I believe he may not have pitted yet though. But either way, I think that's a very secure third for him. And through bad luck for others, Coxon again in the box seat for a very good finish. With a very possible second place here.
Yeah, it's a good possibility. I mean, yeah, considering his issues in the early stage of the race, Coxon's had a good recovery drive, and at the moment, on course for a top 3 finish and in third place. And I think he should move back up to second place once Anders makes his pit stop. And as I say that, Anders is in the pits.
Well, there we go. So Coxon now in second. And again, these are the kind of championship drives where even when Coxon has some kind of problem with here he had a half spin and was purely fortunate that he wasn't ran into by another car. Simply gets on with the job and currently second with what looks like another extended bit of points lead in the championship.
Yeah, I was about to say as well, Coxon, if he finishes where he is at the moment in second place, what we're on just about to come to the end of lap 79, just about actually as we do start lap 79 as Jake's cross the line. Coxon, if he finishes where he is, he'll extend that lead in the championship, and at the moment he's got 110 points, but he should he'll get a massive points gain in this race for sure. But considering he finishes,
Indeed. And that's not going to take anything away from David Yates, who's put on an absolutely flawless drive. Ooh, that's Oscar Tim, I believe, in the barriers. David ran in second for the opening stint and ran long in the first stint. Did a masterstroke of a pit stop strategy and clearly got out ahead of Tatchak and simply been continuing on from there. 30-second lead now, and unless something happens to him, looks to be very much secure in first place. Likewise with Coxon in second and Anderson third. Looking through the rest of the cars still running, we have Lavach in fourth. We have Jon Team up into fifth, only a few seconds behind Peter actually. Cesare Slapinski back out after his straightening up the suspension a little bit and the tyre change in sixth. Further lap behind is Jules Begard in seventh, who has about a minute to go on against Luciano Rocha, who himself has nearly a minute on Ray Riddall in ninth. And then a further lap behind is Oscar Tim, currently in the pits for repairs. And then we'll have Brun Chacon up into 11th in a few laps' time. Vadim Tachak out. Simon Wattman will be up into 12th in what I believe will be quite a few laps' time. Because I think Simon has had a moment or two with the repairs and are quite a few laps down indeed on the leaders. 17 laps in fact on the leader. But soldiering on in that March 85 for Los Angeles Drivewall and doing a very good job indeed for them.
Yep, absolutely. As yeah, it seems to have all settled down now after the stops, and that issue for Slapinski is dropped him down from what was third or fourth place down to sixth place now, and it's allowed John Team a chance to pounce and move up into fifth place now. And John having a great run, and considering John started towards the back of the field or round about the midfield, I should say, is having a great run in fifth, and it'll be I think that'll be his best result of the season if he finishes there, I believe.
Yeah, I think he has a 6th or 7th place finish so far. So it would indeed be his best finish of the year in this series. And likewise, since he got back into ISO racing, Peter Lavach in fourth now, as who is that without a front wing? As Luciano Rocha, unfortunately, getting out of the way and heading for the pits for repairs, presumably. Peter Lavach has put on some great drives so far this season, and again up there in fourth. In a year-old March, no doubt, no less. But it currently looks like Jon Tim is quicker and closing in, as is Slapinski behind him, so these positions could still change hands. Ooh, and look at that speed difference. Ślepiński closing in very, very quickly indeed, and someone else locked up in front.
Yeah, I think that was John Team in front of him, and John Team had to go defensive there, and excuse me, yeah, got a bit sideways on entry there, but manages to hold the position. But I think it's just a matter of time before oh, someone's in the wall.
Was that Oscar maybe? Could also have been Bruno.
Yeah, it was Oscar Team. Oh, be careful, Oscar.
Oh, that's a place you do not want to have spun. You can't see around the barriers there.
He manages to get going now, but I think that car's crabbing slightly, so I think that could be excuse me, that could be race ending damage.
Well, he put on a great race so far, but late race, it's always difficult, no matter how many races you've done. Hopefully he'll be able to get the car back to the pits, and here comes Ślepiński going around outside down the straight and goes past John Tim up into 5th place. But John will surely want to try and hook onto this and try to challenge Peter Lavac. As Lavac is now just in front of these two.
Yep, and I think if I was John, I wouldn't want to do anything too silly, because he's got a two-lap gap to the next car behind him, which is Jules Bouchard, who's in the Penske. So again, Penske racing car. But I think John at the moment, I think he's not doing anything too silly. He just wants to, like you say, just try and hook on to the back of Sapinski and try and catch up to Lavac.
Very much so, and not too far behind these guys is Anders Nilsson, who's a lap ahead, more or less. But knowing Anders, he won't want to go ahead of them too much here and spoil their fun. But there goes Ślepiński, flies past Lavac down the straight, so Ślepiński very quick still in that Skull Bandit racing car. And I suppose Ślepiński with another recovery drive with that unfortunate puncture that he picked up after the pit stops.
Yeah, absolutely. As John Team just moved out of the way there for his countryman, and there was Nielsen, and they didn't want to hold him up too much. But I think John's just losing touch of Peter in front of him, and I think he won't be too disappointed with 6th place. It looks like something might have happened, possibly. Oh, sorry, I was looking.
No, I think it's all right.
I was stuck in replay mode watching Oscar. Yeah, it's a good point. I'm just watching David Jakes as well, and he's going a little bit slow. So not slow, but he's going a little bit slower than he has been before. So that gap to Richard Coxon was 20 seconds. Now it's down to 13 seconds. So Jakes might be fuel saving slightly.
That would be down to I think they have the same engine, but obviously that Lola is a little more streamlined, so could be that, and a difference in driving style and how they get speed out of the cars. Coxon with a more consistent pace, I suppose, maybe over a full stint, while Jakes have been running a little bit hot early on. So this could still turn very interesting towards the end of the race between the leading duo. But for now, John Team only about a second behind Lavac. So let's follow that on cameras while we keep a track of the time difference between Jakes and Coxon.
as we get close to the end of the race as well, I think I don't think we've done the trivia question.
Not the answer to it, no. So while we wait for everything to play out, let's actually do that. So give me just a moment. There we are. So the question for you all were: who won the last kart-sanctioned IndyCar race at Exhibition Place on July 8th, 2007? Was it A, Will Power, B, Paul Tracy, or was it C, Simon Pagenaud? Any guess from you, Ryan? Or you may even know?
I do know the answer, but I'll give for a change, I'll give other people a chance to answer first.
Fair enough. Let me get the broadcast chat up, and let's see, we do have an A for an answer from Blue Moon. Can't see any other answers as such, I don't think. No. There one from that's Dave, I believe, for C, for Simon Pagenaud, and for BL with B, and Anil May for B as well, in the form of Paul Tracy. And the correct answer is Ryan?
It is A, Will Power.
So congratulations to Blue Moon for getting the answer right. As most times, Blue Moon is very knowledgeable in the trivia questions and the answers to them. And yeah, I myself guessed Simon Pagenaud when I saw the question, but obviously I was wrong. But yeah.
But yeah, the only reason I knew the answer is because I was watching a season review during the week from 2007.
Yeah, that's certainly the way to do it. Lavach currently still holding on in front of Jonatan, and let's just have a quick gander up here. Oh, it is slightly closer still. 10 laps to go. 10 seconds. That should be enough for Yakes to be able to hold on.
Oh, they've got a back marker up ahead. Is that? It's not a back marker. That was is that Sapinski having issues? Sapinski's having issues.
Oh, Slapinski having issues?
Is that? Surely that's not another puncture.
Oh, he's into the pits at least. Not sure what specifically is going on. Oh, that was a very slow entry into the pits as well.
Yeah, I was about to say, surely that can't be fuel.
No, I don't think it was. That was probably because of how quick that was probably another tire issue. Unless it's one of those where the pit crew didn't quite get all the liters needed into the car. But the way that car is loose, that looks like a new rear tire or new rear tires on that car. So that'll be a bit of a handful. So that's now Lavach up to 4th again, and Jonatan into 5th once again, and they are still battling over real estate in terms of those two positions.
Absolutely. It looks like Peters pulled away slightly from John as well, so But I think John's maybe just deciding not to push too much and maybe just settle for P5 because he's got no threat from behind him.
Well, knowing Jon, he's probably going to give it a bit of a go towards the very few last laps. But you're probably right, he'll just keep a watching brief for next couple of laps, few laps here, and then give it a go where he thinks he has a chance to go by. And meanwhile, 8 seconds the gap between Coxon and Yakes.
It looks like, I thought John was going to have a go on the outside there. He's got a run on Petter, and it looks like he's got a fantastic exit. He might be able to get a run down, heading down to turn 3.
He's definitely going for it, but it looks like Lavac has far lower wings and able to hold on for now. So it looks like Jon will have to do it somewhere else, or maybe Lavac even boost it up a little bit.
Quite possible as John starts to show his nose there to shoot. He wasn't going to dive up the inside, but just trying to intimidate Peter Lavac there.
Well, it looks like it's definitely one of those wing things again, where Lavac is running lower wings, Jon with slightly higher wings, and obviously Jon is quicker on the curvy bit off the track, but Lavac much quicker down the straight where you really need to be very quick. Ooh! And I don't know if there were contact there, but Jon now really trying to look up the inside. Ooh, just not having the overlap going into turn 5.
Yeah, John's definitely looking a lot more racy now, and it seems to be he gets really close under braking, but just as soon as he get onto a straight, Peter just seems to pull away with either low wing or just uses a little bit of boost.
Indeed.
I wonder if John can get a good exit here. He's not as close as I thought he thought he would be, but again, he needs to try and nail the exit on in turn 1 and try and be as close as possible because Peter is just he's doing a good defensive job.
Indeed, at least so far. I mean, there's still laps to go, so there's still time for him to brake for Jon's sake, but at the same time I hope Lavac has a good race and they can have a really good scrap to come the end of this race, as they've had so far. And it looks like Yakes has stabilized the difference between himself and Coxon, so the battle to watch is this one between Lavac and Jon Tim. And Jon a bit too far back again, but closer than he was the last lap. And as you say, look at how much he closes in on that long braking zone. I reckon he may have a dive up into this turn 5 left-hander actually, come the last lap, if he is close enough.
Possible. He keeps getting closer, but it's just he can't really do anything at the moment. But I have to agree. I think turn 5 might be his next best opportunity if he can get a good exit and a good run. But yeah, Peter's getting a good exit and just seems to be getting a good drive out of this these final couple of corners here. But it seems to be as John gets a bit sideways there. This is the exit of the corner. He needs to get a good exit. He's closer now. He's been closer than he was before, and he's definitely got a good exit.
Really cutting it fine with the inside barrier, and look at this, what a run! And yet Lavach with a bit of boost on and lower wings is still holding on. When I just noticed Jules Bouchard has retired and Ray Riddle has retired as well. Idea. That's unfortunate for both those drivers. Jules for it being a home race and Ray for he was having a good race early on, and that was Jon having a big moment, didn't he?
Yeah, I thought he was going to clip the inside wall there.
Well, you can see that Jon is really working the car at the moment and doing everything he can to try and get an opportunity on open up on Peter, but Peter so far has done enough. 4 laps to go for these two. Make that 3, I suppose, because they are a lap down. Actually 2 laps left. Wait, one or two, 1 or 3. 2.5 laps left. And Jon again really close in the backside of the course in these tight and sweeping turns, but again not able to make anything with that extra pace, at least for now. And again really cutting it fine with the inside barriers everywhere now is Jon.
He needs to. Yeah, he's getting close. I've watched a few times. He's getting really close to that inside wall in the final couple of corners, and yeah, it's the exit of turn 1. He needs to try and get a good exit and try and be close. And if he gets close enough, try and use some boost to get by. But I think Peter's got that pretty much worked that plan out. Use it to try and stay ahead, and with the low wing as well, it'll definitely be helping. But John's running out of time, and I think John senses that as well, and is getting slightly frustrated.
Indeed. Definitely so. Well, it looks like Jon has some little issue here.
Oh no, I think has he clipped the wall?
Oh,
Was it fuel?
That looks like a fuel or engine issue.
Oh no!
I think he actually just really coasted there, so he's probably really close on fuel. There's 1 lap to go then, as Jakes enters the final lap.
I wonder if he's waiting for Jakes.
Possibly, but I mean he's still looks like he's going to have to be really lean on the final lap.
Yeah, if I was him, I would just use low boost and stick it into a higher gear, or basically let it close to stick it at a higher gear and try and save as much fuel as possible. But still, if he can make it to the end, 5th place is still a good result.
Indeed, and it looks like Jakes will with a proper real good drive take a win here in his home race. I think this is the only Canadian event this year. I could be wrong in the kart series, but either way, here comes Lavach waiting as well to not have to do another lap. Jakes coming through the final turn, takes the win here in his home race at the exhibition place. roughly 2-3 seconds ahead of Richard Coxon, who will finish second and extend his championship points lead. Third in the race will be... Uh-oh. And is out of fuel as well by the sound of things. Oh, Lavach nearly running into the back of him. So Anders not able to complete the final lap, but I think he'll be classified in third either way. Lavach, having finished in fourth, looks very happy with that. Jon Team as well, happy with fifth by the looks of things, along with his brother Oscar for having finished. Slapinski will finish, I suppose for him, a somewhat disappointing sixth place. Luciano Rocha finishes seventh, with Brun Chacon soldiering on to pick up eighth place in this race. Very well done to him. Jus Bouchard retired, but will be classified in ninth. Oscar Tim finishes 10th, with Simon Wattman soldiering on to finish 11th, with Ray Riddle, the second of our retirees, in 12th. Then we had as well Grant Riddle, Vadim Tachak, Francisco Amaral, Mark Wittmann, Mateus da Silva, Adam Hackman, Alberto Quino, Richard Wilkes, Kiel McKeels, Mike Olsen, August Watering, David Saber, Jason Fetch, and Brian Yannick. The other drivers who were unable to reach the finish of the race, but did a really good job getting prepared and putting on a really good show here tonight. But David Yates with a win here in the home race, he must be very happy with that, I reckon.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's probably the race that he wanted to win the most in this series, with him being a Canadian and this being a Canadian track. And it was a great drive from David. He didn't get involved in any incidents, but in the early stages of the race, he just kept out of trouble. And I think as well, he used the pit strategy to his advantage.
Indeed. Again, with that, with those really good fuel strategies and making it work very, very well indeed. And as well, quite a few retirees, but that's sort of par for the course for these street circuits. The dangers of the barriers, very, very real indeed.
Yeah, and several drivers having incident or having issues with the engines as well. And I think probably just some like I mentioned earlier, some drivers just pushing it a little bit too much with regards to the engines. And Anders Nielsen had an engine failure on the last lap as well. Actually, which is he's probably glad they had that when he did, because if it was halfway through the race, that would have been just heartbreaking.
So second race in a row, then he has an engine failure on what is the final lap for him. That's as a driver, I would be somewhat worried with that. But yeah, why don't we wait to see if any drivers wishes to join us, as just then our championship leader and second and third place finishers looks to be about to join us. So
User was moved to your channel. User was moved to your channel.
First and foremost, I suppose, congratulations, Richard. Another stalwart drive and being rewarded with a second place.
Yeah, thank you. There were a few mistakes through the way, a couple of half spins at the worst place possible. But yeah, that were a tough one. Very tough.
Yeah, we did catch the first half spin you had there at turn 3. Very fortunate to not be cleaned up by the looks of things in that whole kerfuffle.
Yeah, I did get a bit of damage on the right rear, but it didn't really affect the car. It maybe made it a bit more lively under hard throttle, but it was still perfectly drivable. But yeah, very lucky.
And it looked like You more or less tried to stay out of battles. Was that the case? Because I can't remember seeing you in any really close battles after that opening stint.
No, I mean Cesarius had too much pace for me. I think he was pushing in the middle stint, but I decided to just make sure I had enough fuel so I could potentially push in the last stint, in the hope of catching Vadim and Cesarius. But unfortunately, Vadim's engine blew. Bad luck for him. I don't know what happened to Cesarius, but I know he had to visit the pits again. But as soon as I got a whiff of catching Jakes, right, let's try it. But so close, so I can't say it. So close yet so far. But well done to him. He did a good job.
He did indeed. And looking ahead, we have the
User was moved to your channel.
Marlboro 500 at Michigan International Speedway. How do you rate your chances in the second of the Triple Crown events?
We'll have to see. I mean, we go through an engine regulation change as well.
Indeed,
the boost
indeed.
gets lowered a bit, so I imagine it'll be the same people up the front battling again.
Sounds.
But yeah, you know what I'll be aiming for. I don't need to say it again. Top 5 will do me.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and that was Richard Coxon joining Jonatan, and up next I've got the third place finisher, Anders Nielsen with me. And Anders, you finished third, but you had that engine failure on the last lap. I bet you're glad. I bet you're glad you had that engine failure when you did, and not halfway through the race. I suppose you could say.
Yeah, I was lucky. The fourth guy was one lap behind, I think, but I gotta stop blowing these engines. The first stint, it was really hard to pace yourself because I want to stick with the other guys, but I had like Alonso El Plan, and I was saving a lot of fuel. And I think I pitted on lap 40, and second stint increased the speed a little bit. The third stint, I gave it what I had, and it was maybe a bit too late, but it was great fun. It was great fun.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah, me and Jonathan noticed that. I think it was in the first half of the race when I can't remember who it was you were behind, but you didn't seem to be eager to make a move. You just kind of, yeah, it looked like you had a plan, and like you say, you stuck to it, and in the end, it rewarded you with a third place finish. And just quickly looking at the standings, it looks like at the moment you are fifth in the championship, but your results should hopefully, I believe anyway, it should leapfrog you up to fourth place in the championship, third or fourth anyway. By looking ahead to the next round, what's the Oval, Michigan International Speedway? Do you think you can get a good result at Michigan, or how do you think your form is on the ovals? Is it good, or are you more of a road course specialist?
Ryan, I will do my best, but the ovals, yeah, I'd rather back off than, yeah, I'm not so comfortable, but I will definitely do my best. And if I can get a top 10 on an oval in this bunch, then I'm happy, really happy.
Good stuff. Well, again, congratulations on third place, Anders, and yeah, I believe up next, Jonathan, you've got the hometown hero, David Jakes, with you.
I do indeed. So a home country win, if not a hometown win for you, David. I assume you're very happy with that one.
Oh, absolutely. Coxon put quite the charge in at the end. I wasn't expecting to have to push that hard. I was in full engine save mode after Vadim went out. I wasn't sure how long it was going to last, or didn't want to push it without needing to, but yeah, Coxon's pace at the end was rocket ship style.
It was very impressive to see that, and sort of looked like you were saving fuel behind Vadim for the opening stint, and then planning on going a little bit longer than him, or how did that all play out? We didn't quite catch the whole pit stop position switching stuff that happened around that lap 36, 38.
I think
area.
the only thing that happened there is I got a good stop, and the other guys didn't quite get as good of one. Like, I got a real quick stop that first time. Tires were done quick, so that let me leapfrog them. That's all it was. It wasn't any skill on that one.
Okay, I was sort of contemplating whether you took 2 tires or something, but that wasn't the case then. And I suppose, just out of interest, you having this as a home race, the track is very bumpy, I found when I had a quick go at it. Was that a really difficult thing, or was it a little bit easier after having done the Burke Lakefront Airport a couple of weeks ago?
Well, yeah, nothing's as bumpy as that place, so I guess there was a nice practice run there before coming here. But no, certainly a lot of places where it doesn't take much. You can lose traction just from the undulations in the road. But nice, decent flow to it. Walls are tight, though. That's really what makes it treacherous. But I just want to say, good race to everybody. Shame Vadim had the engine failure. Thank you to him for the work he put into the setup. Worked out well, so appreciate that.
That sounds good. And finally, looking ahead at the Marlboro 500 at the Michigan International Speedway. Any thoughts or assumptions going into that second Triple Crown event?
Well, I think, like everybody, you just got to get to the end and do the best you can. I think car-wise, that's not going to be the best place for us. Being low drag is a benefit at a place like Michigan, but we'll do what we can with it. Shorter tracks, though. Looking forward to those a little more.
That sounds like a fair way of looking at it, for sure. So thank you very much to our drivers for joining us for the post-race interviews here. Coming up here at ISO, we have, I believe that is next weekend indeed, we have the Internationales AWD HMSC Flugplatzrennen Mainz-Finsen at the Mainz-Finden airport with the DRM Championship 1978 edition. That'll I think be broadcast by Jason on Sunday, July 17th. I think the first race will start at roughly 8 p.m., just like this one. And that will most likely be a very interesting event indeed. For this one, any final thoughts for you, Ryan?
Yeah, it's a great race, and Toronto, as always, providing the goods and providing a great race, and had a well-deserved winner with the home race driver, Mr. Jakes, taking the win, and Richard Coxon taking a deserved podium in second to extend his championship lead. And I think at this stage of the season, would anyone rule Richard out of taking the championship or keeping it until the end of the season? I wouldn't. So yeah, he's a good bet to take the championship, but still a long way to go.
You
That's
just jinxed me now. Cheers.
Sorry.
it definitely is a long way to go, so anything can still happen. And many people have said in the past, you can. It's motorsport, so anything can happen, and it's also been said that the best laid plans never survive contact with the enemy. So that is, in a way, certainly true for racing as well. You may plan for certain things, but then you need to think on the fly when shit happens. So after that, pardon my language, and I hope you all will have a great week. Thank you to all our drivers for joining us for post-race interviews and for putting on a great show in this race. Condolences to everyone who didn't make the finish, but it was a very difficult track, this one, and a very difficult race. Really good fun to watch, and we'll see you all, I believe, after the summer break for the next event in this championship, the Marlboro 500. But up until next weekend with the DRM Championship race, have a great week, take care of yourselves, and have a good night. Goodbye, everyone. And also, thank you very much, Ryan, for joining me as color commentator for this one.
Oh, it's been my pleasure, and looking forward to the next round.
Cheers, mate. So, until next weekend, goodbye, everyone.